Most people believe arguments are won with logic. They think the smartest person in the room is the one with the fastest response, the sharpest words, the loudest certainty. But Arthur Schopenhauer understood something darker about human nature. Most arguments are not driven by truth. They are driven by ego. And when ego enters a conversation, logic quietly leaves the room. That is why intelligent people rarely waste energy trying to defeat irrational people, because they understand something most men never learn. You cannot win against someone who is emotionally addicted to being right. The more you explain, the more emotional they become. The calmer you stay, the more frustrated they feel. And the moment you realize this, you stop arguing to convince. You start observing to understand. Today, you will understand the 7 silent strategies intelligent people use when dealing with irrational arguments, not to dominate through noise, but through psychological control. Because real intelligence is not measured by how much you speak. It is measured by how little chaos can control you. 1. They refuse to react emotionally. Irrational people feed on emotional reactions. They provoke, interrupt, mock, distort your words, not because they seek truth, but because emotional chaos gives them power. Schopenhauer believed that most people are slaves to blind impulses, meaning when emotions take control, reason disappears. That is why intelligent people never rush to defend themselves emotionally. The average person thinks silence means weakness. But controlled silence is often a display of superiority, because reacting instantly reveals something dangerous, loss of self-control. And the person who loses emotional control first usually loses psychological power first. This is why highly intelligent individuals pause before responding, not because they are intimidated, but because they refuse to allow another person to control their internal state. Most people cannot tolerate discomfort. So, when someone insults them, questions them, disrespects them, they immediately try to restore their ego. They explain too much, defend too much, attacked too much, and without realizing it, they become emotionally manipulated. But intelligent people understand. An irrational argument is rarely about facts. It is about emotional dominance, and the calmest person in the room usually controls the frame. That is why silence unsettles emotional people, because silence cannot be controlled. 2. They observe the motive behind the words. Most people only hear what is being said. Intelligent people study why it is being said. This changes everything, because irrational people often argue for hidden emotional reasons. Sometimes they want validation, sometimes attention, sometimes superiority, sometimes they simply want conflict. And once you recognize the emotional motive behind the conversation, you stop taking the words personally. Schopenhauer understood that human beings are deeply driven by desire, insecurity, and unconscious impulses, which means many arguments are not intellectual battles. They are emotional projections. A frustrated person projects frustration. An insecure person projects superiority. A weak person projects aggression, and most people never notice this. They stay trapped at the surface level of the conversation, trying to win with logic. But intelligent people analyze the psychology underneath the words, because once you understand someone's emotional need, their behavior becomes predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. This is why emotionally intelligent individuals ask themselves questions others never ask. Why is this person trying so hard to be right? Why are they becoming emotional over something small? Why do they need this reaction from me? These questions reveal the real conversation, not the visible one, the hidden one. And the hidden conversation is where power exists. 3. They never waste energy explaining themselves excessively. One of the biggest mistakes intelligent people learn to avoid is over-explaining, because the moment you desperately try to make everyone understand you, you unconsciously place yourself in a lower psychological position. Schopenhauer understood that most people do not seek understanding. They seek confirmation of their existing beliefs, which means no amount of explanation will convince someone emotionally committed to misunderstanding you. This is why intelligent people become extremely selective with their words. They stop trying to defend every accusation, clarify every misunderstanding, correct every false opinion, because they understand something powerful. Not every battle deserves your energy. Weak people feel the compulsive need to explain themselves constantly. Strong people allow misunderstanding to exist because they know their value does not collapse simply because someone else refuses to see it. And this is difficult for most people. Why? Because humans crave validation. They want to feel seen, approved, accepted. But intelligent people eventually realize the need for constant validation creates emotional slavery. The more dependent you are on being understood, the easier you are to manipulate. That is why truly intelligent people become comfortable with silence, comfortable with ambiguity, comfortable with being underestimated, because they know something irrational people never understand. Power rarely argues loudly. It simply moves differently. 4. They recognize when logic no longer matters. There comes a point in certain arguments where logic completely dies. Facts no longer matter. Evidence no longer matters. Reason no longer matters. At that point, the conversation becomes emotional theater. And intelligent people recognize this immediately. Most people continue arguing anyway. They think, if I explain it better, they will finally understand. But irrational people are not searching for truth. They are protecting identity. And once identity becomes attached to a belief, changing that belief feels like psychological death. This is why some people become aggressive when confronted with facts, because facts threaten the ego. Schopenhauer believed humans are not primarily rational creatures. They are creatures driven by will, emotion first, reason second. And once you understand this, you stop expecting logic from emotional minds. This realization changes your entire behavior. You stop wasting energy trying to save conversations that are already psychologically lost. Sometimes the smartest response is disengagement, not because you lost, but because the conversation itself became meaningless. Winning every argument can destroy your peace, and protecting your peace is more valuable than protecting your ego. 5. They control the pace of the conversation. Emotional people move fast. They interrupt, react impulsively, raise their voice, push urgency, because emotional chaos creates pressure, and pressure forces weak minds into reactive behavior. But intelligent people slow everything down. They pause before responding. They choose words carefully. They refuse to mirror emotional intensity. This creates psychological imbalance because irrational people expect emotional reciprocity. They expect you to match their energy. But when you remain calm, measured, controlled, their emotional strategy begins collapsing. This is why calmness intimidates emotional people, because calmness signals internal stability, and stability is power. Schopenhauer understood that the average person is controlled by impulses they barely understand, which means most people are predictable under emotional pressure. They reveal insecurity through overreaction, weakness through aggression, fear through defensiveness. But intelligent people do not rush, because they know speed often serves emotion, and emotion clouds perception. The person controlling the emotional tempo often controls the psychological outcome. This is why powerful people master restraint, not because they lack emotion, but because they refuse to become servants of it. 6. They accept that some people cannot be saved. This is one of the hardest truths intelligent people eventually learn. Not everyone wants truth. Some people want comfort. Some want conflict. Some want to remain victims. And some are so emotionally attached to their illusions, they will defend them at any cost. Most people waste years trying to change minds that never intended to change. They drain their energy, their peace, their emotional stability, trying to rescue people from their own blindness. But intelligent people understand something painful. You cannot force awareness onto someone committed to ignorance. Schopenhauer often emphasized the suffering created by human desire and attachment. And one of the greatest attachments people have is attachment to their own identity, even when that identity is self-destructive. This is why irrational people often reject uncomfortable truths, not because the truth is false, but because accepting it would require psychological transformation. And transformation is painful. Intelligent people stop trying to control what cannot be controlled. They stop chasing impossible validation. They stop arguing with people emotionally addicted to misunderstanding. Instead, they redirect energy toward growth, discipline, silence, purpose, because wisdom is not learning how to control everyone. Wisdom is learning where your energy should never go. 7. They protect their inner peace above their ego. Most arguments are not about truth. They are about ego preservation. People want to feel superior, correct, important, and the average person sacrifices peace just to protect pride. But intelligent people eventually discover something life-changing. Inner peace is more valuable than temporary victory, because what is the point of winning an argument if you lose emotional control in the process? What is the point of proving someone wrong if the conversation poisons your mind for hours afterward? Schopenhauer believed human suffering often comes from endless desire, the endless need to dominate, to control, to be validated. And most people remain trapped inside this cycle forever, reacting emotionally, defending constantly, seeking approval endlessly. But intelligent people detach, not because they do not care, but because they understand peace requires emotional discipline. And emotional discipline is rare, especially in a world addicted to outrage. This is why powerful people often appear emotionally distant, not cold, controlled, because they learn something most people never will. Every argument has a cost, and not every victory is worth paying for. The strongest minds are not obsessed with dominating conversations. They are obsessed with mastering themselves. Because once you master yourself, other people lose the ability to emotionally control you, and that is real power. Final thoughts. Arthur Schopenhauer understood human nature in a way that still makes people uncomfortable today, because he saw what most people refuse to admit. Humans are far less rational than they pretend to be. Most conversations are emotional games disguised as logical discussions. Most arguments are driven by ego disguised as intelligence. And most people are controlled by impulses they never question. But intelligent people move differently. They do not react impulsively. They do not waste energy proving themselves to emotional minds. They do not seek validation from irrational people. Instead, they protect their peace. Observe carefully, speak selectively, and remain emotionally disciplined when everyone else loses control. Because true intelligence is not the ability to win every argument. It is the ability to remain mentally unshaken inside emotional chaos. If this video changed the way you see human behavior, subscribe, because most people spend their entire lives learning how to argue, but very few ever learn how to remain powerful in silence.